Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun with Maps. I'm your host Dan Hansen, and we've got a long list of scheduled episodes to come. Sometimes the events of the real world make us adjust that. We did that with our episodes on Wuhan, China, on Ukraine, on the Afghanistan and the other stand countries. So now, because of the tragedy in Hawaii with the wildfires in Maui, we're doing a special episode of Fun with Maps on the island of Maui. A lot of people ask some questions about just where it is and some of the surroundings and all. So, unfortunately, as of this recording on August 15th, 2023, the death toll in the Hawaiian wildfires is 99 people, and there's like 1,000 still unaccounted for. So it's a real tragic situation. So let's get right into this special episode of Fun with Maps about the island of Maui. So just for some perspective, here's a map of North America, the United States, and we've got, of course, the mainland here, Alaska up here, and down here are the Hawaiian Islands. They're about 2,500 miles from the mainland, depending on what city you go to and which island. Some are closer, some a little farther. The state of Hawaii counts 137 islands in its chain, and that includes the major islands. We'll look at some smaller minor islands and even smaller islands called islets. So we know that Hawaii, the island, was annexed by the United States in 1898, was made a territory in 1900, and became the 50th U.S. state in 1959. So the Hawaiian Islands here, they're an archipelago. They've got 8 major islands. They're all volcanic, several atolls, numerous smaller islets here in the Pacific Ocean. Remember, an archipelago is just a group of islands closely scattered in a body of water. So this is what we have here. And let's look at them in order of size. Okay, these are the big ones. So this is Hawaii, the island of Hawaii. It's also known as the Big Island. Okay, it's the southeasternmost. It's obviously the largest of these. It's about 4,000 square miles. And what's interesting is it continues to grow because Kilauea, the world's most active volcano, continues to pour lava into the ocean. So it's adding to its size all the time from that lava pouring into the ocean from the volcano. The second largest is what we're looking at today, and that's Maui. It's about 729 square miles. It's about 48 miles east to west. It's about 26 miles at its greatest north-south dimension. They call it the Valley Island. We'll see later this valley, this isthmus here between the west and east, which is about 6 miles by 6 miles. And then we get to Oahu. That's the third largest. It's also called the Gathering Place Island. So what Oahu is famous, of course, it hosts the city and county of Honolulu. So here's Honolulu, which you're all familiar with, on Oahu. The next biggest, the fourth largest, is Kauai. And Kauai is also called the Garden Island. That's up here. Molokai here, back over close to Maui, it's 5th most populated and 5th largest in size. It's called the Friendly Island. Next is just a little to the south of Molokai is Lanai, 6th largest of the main islands, smallest publicly accessible inhabited island in the chain. It's also known as the Pineapple Island because it used to be, basically the whole island was a pineapple plantation. Niihau up here, it's westernmost obviously, 7th largest inhabited island in Hawaii. They call it the Forbidden Island. And then Kahulavi, that's the smallest of the 8 main volcanic islands in the Hawaiian Islands. They call it the Target Island. It's only 11 miles long by 6 miles wide, so it's about just under 45 square miles. So those are the main islands when we talk about the Hawaiian Islands, and we're going to, of course, be looking at Maui in a second. So here's a good bathymetric map of the Hawaiian Islands, and bathymetry is just a study of underwater depth of ocean floors or lake floors or river floors, water. In other words, it's like the underwater equivalent to topography. So here you can see, here's the depth chart here. So very deep over here, and some of these orange things and all less deep. Here's the big island. Here's Maui, which we're looking at, Oahu, Molokai, Lanai, just what we just looked at. But this shows some of the depth of the water. It's a pretty cool map. So the Hawaiian Islands used to be known to Europeans and Americans as the Sandwich Islands, and that's because of this guy, Captain James Cook. You know him as the British explorer, cartographer, naval officer. He had those 3 famous voyages between 1768 and 1779 in the Pacific. Went to New Zealand, Australia. Before that, he did maps of Newfoundland, and he was the first recorded European contact along the eastern coastline of Australia and the Hawaiian Islands, and the first recorded circumnavigation of New Zealand. So Captain Cook actually came across the Hawaiian Islands by chance. He was crossing in his 3rd voyage in 1778, and he ran into the Hawaiian Islands. He was on his the HMS Resolution. Later, when he returned to the Hawaiian Islands, he was actually killed on the islands there. But he's the guy. He named the islands in honor of the 4th Earl of Sandwich, who was kind of his boss and sponsor. So that's why they were the Sandwich Islands. But since the 1840s or so, the islands have been named after their largest island, which is, of course, Hawaii. So they're the Hawaii Islands. So this is a good U.S. Census map. It's from 2010, so a little dated, but we can still see some things. So this red area, and then going down orange, yellows, green. The red area is where there's 5,000 people per square mile. So you see up here in Oahu, there's a lot of that. Honolulu and all that in Oahu. There's a little here in Maui. There's a little here on the Big Island. But Oahu is certainly the most populous. And then you get down to some of these green areas where there's hardly anyone, 1 to 10 or 20 people per square mile. So this is just an interesting map, but you can see Oahu here, and it's see this little red area here, which is what's been devastated now by the fires. We'll see in a minute. So let's take a closer look at Maui now. This is a great map by someone named Kelisi, K-E-L-I-S-I, so thank you for that. Before the recent fires, on an average day, there were about 42,000 tourists on Maui on a day. In 2020, Maui had a population of 168,000, which was the third highest of the Hawaiian Islands, behind Oahu and the Big Island. It's 2,340 miles west of San Francisco, 2,495 miles west of Los Angeles, and 3,960 miles east of Tokyo. So that gives you some perspective where it is, just out there in the Pacific Ocean. It's the second largest, as we said, about 727 square miles. Second largest of the Hawaiian Islands, but that makes it the 17th largest island in the United States. Hului is the largest census designated place on the island, and there's about, as of 2010, there are about 26,000 people there. That's the commercial and financial hub. We also want to Lahaina here, which we'll be talking about in a minute with the terrible fires. Native Hawaiian tradition gives the origin of the island's name. There's a legend of Hawaii Loa, and he was a navigator, and he was credited with discovering the Hawaiian Islands. And the legend says he named this island Maui after his son, who he had already named for the demigod Maui. So Maui is because of his son. So this is a pretty cool map. It's a Landsat photo. They call it the Valley Isle, and that's because of this large isthmus here. Well, it's 6 miles by 6 miles, as we said, separating the northwest volcanic mass here and the southeastern volcanic mass over here. So it got its shape, this diverse landscapes, the result of the unique combination of geology, topography, and climate. So, each volcanic cone in all of the chain of the Hawaiian Islands is built on basalt, a dark iron-rich silica-poor rock, and it's poured out of thousands of vents, highly fluid lava over millions of years, okay, and that's what formed these islands. So several of the volcanoes were close enough to each other that lava flows in their flanks, they overlapped, so they merged into a single island. So you can see that Maui here is what they call a volcanic doublet. So it's got this volcano here and this volcano over here, and they overlapped and got joined here, with some sandy erosional deposits, and that formed the singular island of Maui. This is an interesting drawing map of Maui, and well, here's all the islands up here, the big islands. See, here's showing Pearl Harbor on Oahu here, but here's Maui, and here's that isthmus, and here's Mount Kokol, that volcano. Here's Mount Haleakala here, and they kind of joined here. There's Kahului up here, the big island here, Lanai, Molokai, all that. That's a pretty interesting map. Now this is an interesting channel here, okay? The Aua channel. So here's a Fun with Maps fact. Maui's a leading whale watching center because the humpback whales, like a lot of people, like to winter there. They shelter down in this channel, the Au channel. So they travel about 3,500 miles from Alaska every fall, and then they spend the winter months down here mating and birthing in the warm waters off of Maui, and then most of them leave by the end of April. So they, like humans would too, they get out of the cold, they come down to Hawaii, they frolic for the winter, and then they go back home when it's a little warmer up there. So it's where the whales like to hang out. So this is just a nice aerial photo from the International Space Station, and you can see, we got the big island here, and Maui's here, and Oahu, and Molokai, and all that, what we just saw. But it's a pretty nice image from the International Space Station. But this is what we're looking at, and there's that little isthmus there on Maui. So it's now August of 2023, and this is a great map from Reuters showing the devastating wildfires, especially here in Lahaina. Lahaina is a beach resort city. About 13,000 people live there. Was a whaling center, and once it was the capital. And it gets about 2 million tourists a year, okay, and it's really wiped out now. So the fires were driven by the wind and prompted evacuations. It caused widespread damage. As of this recording, at least 99 people were killed just in the town of Lahaina here. There's at least 1,000 people missing, so the death toll will probably greatly increase the next few days, unfortunately. They aren't sure exactly what caused the fires yet, but they were proliferated because of the dry, gusty conditions. There's a strong high pressure area the north. There was Hurricane Dora to the south. Hawaiian State Senator Brian Schatz said that the historic town of Lahaina, which is, it dates back to the 1700s, it's almost totally burnt to the ground. There's smoking piles of rubble where historic buildings once stood, and you've seen the pictures on the news. It's just, it's heartbreaking. So here you can see this nice Reuters pictures. This is where some of the main fires are. So here's a Fun with Maps fact. First of all, this is a poster of Smokey Bear's first appearance on a forest fire prevention campaign poster back in 1944. So my grandfather and my uncle were Cleveland firefighters, and they taught us early about putting out fires, and if someone's smoking, making sure that's out. And the old saying, only you can prevent forest fires, is so true. The U.S. Forest Service says nearly 85% of U.S. wildfires are caused by humans. They're natural causes could be lightning or volcanic activity, and of course there are 6 active volcanoes, including one on Maui in the Hawaiian Islands. But Elizabeth Pickett of the Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization says less than 1% of fires are due to natural causes on the Hawaiian Islands. So this is a tragedy that possibly could have been prevented. So the map of Maui is fascinating. I'm glad to have covered it on Fun with Maps, but I certainly feel for all the people who've lost their lives, their loved ones, or their homes, and so on. There's many ways you can donate to help the people, but as always, be sure to look out for scams. I know that the American Red Cross has a dedicated Donate to Maui section, and they're as legitimate as they come. So our thoughts and prayers and hopefully some resources are with the people of Maui. We'll get back to our regularly scheduled Fun with Maps episodes next, but until then, I'm your host, Dan Hansen. Keep on having fun with maps.